The year's 386 CE. It's in a garden, a backyard garden that's walled in Milan. And there's a man, and he's weeping under a fig tree. He's 31 years old. He's brilliant. He's successful beyond his years. And he's at the end of his rope. So he's been running from God for over half his life, and it seems that he's finally ran out of road. And he's leaning against a wall in the back garden, and he doesn't know what he's going to do. And he hears a child's voice. Maybe it's a song. Maybe it's a game. Just from the other side of the wall. Tole lege. Take up and read. Take up and read. And Augustine, he walks over to a table that's in the garden, and he picks up a scroll from the Apostle Paul, and he opens it up, and he reads the very first line his eyes fall to, and his life is transformed. And it's not transformed because of a sermon that was preached to him. It was transformed because of a message that he overheard. 1,400 years later, in a little house, well, maybe a big house in Baltimore, a little boy stands outside a closed door where a husband and wife are speaking. His name is Frederick Douglass, and he's about 10 years old. And the mistress of the house has been teaching him his letters. And the husband is livid with his wife. And little Frederick is outside the door, and he hears the man say, his name is Hugh Old. He says to his wife, teach him to read, and he will be forever unfit to be a slave. Those words were not meant for the boy's ears. They were actually meant to close a door. But Douglass says that for the rest of his life, that this overheard rebuke was the first anti-slavery lecture he ever heard. Words engineered to keep him in chains, overheard, handed him a map to freedom. See, a word overheard, it can be like a baton that is passed. I mean, just slipped into your hand even before you know you're running a race. Here's the strange thing about the overheard word. I was taught this by Fred Craddock long ago. The overheard word, from the overheard conversation, it slips past our defenses. You see, a sermon aimed at us, it can be argued with, it can be resisted, it can be filed away. But an overheard conversation, you see, we're not defending against it because it's not directed at us. And it goes right in, unabated. See, it's not calculated to move us. And that's why it has such access. Augustine overheard a child and he found God. Douglass overheard his master and he found a road to freedom. And that's why the 17th chapter of John may be the most quietly powerful page in the gospel, because in it, Jesus isn't preaching. He's not teaching. He's not even talking to us. He's praying. It's the night of his arrest. It's on the threshold between the upper room and the garden, and he lifts his eyes and he speaks to his Father, and the disciples have simply come close enough to hear, and so have we. And if we listen long enough, at verse 20, you'll hear something that should make you catch your breath. Jesus says, I ask not only on behalf of these, his disciples, but also on behalf of those who will believe through their word. He's praying for us. Verse 20, he's praying for us. We came to eavesdrop on an ancient prayer, and it turns out that our name is in it. But before we get to that part, we need to listen to what Jesus prays for his disciples, because that will matter to us as well. From chapter 17, verse 6. I've revealed you to the ones you gave me from this world. They were always yours. You gave them to me, and they've kept your word. Now they know that everything I have is a gift from you. For I've passed on to them the message you gave me. They accepted it and know that I came from you, and they believe you sent me. My prayer is not for the world, but for those you have given me, because they belong to you. All who are mine belong to you, and you've given them to me, so they bring me glory. Now I'm departing from the world, and they're staying in this world, but I'm coming to you. Holy Father, you have given me your name. Now protect them by the power of your name, so that they will be united, just as we are. During my time here, I protected them by the power of the name you gave me. I guarded them so that not one was lost except the one headed for destruction, as the scriptures foretold. Now, this prayer of Jesus, it can be divided into three parts. The one we've spent a couple of weeks on was the first part, and that's Jesus talking with his Father, the two of them together, and he's interceding actually on his own behalf. And then there's this second part where he prays for the disciples, and then that third part, which we'll get to, verse 20 and following, where he actually prays for us, those who will believe because of their message. But presently we're in the first part of his prayer for his disciples. You know, the ones who walked with him and talked with him and were taught by him. And if you want to make it just a little bit confusing, you could say it this way. We're in the first part of the second part of the prayer. Okay? And one of the first things that you might overhear, and you probably noticed when I read it to you, but let me just read these 3 verses to you again, because I think you probably have found them as interesting as I do. This is Jesus talking, and he's talking about his disciples, okay? Let there be no confusion. I've revealed you to the ones you gave me from this world. They were always yours. You gave them to me, and they have kept your word. Now they know that everything I have is a gift from you, for I passed on to them the message you gave me. They accepted it and know that I came from you, and they believe you sent me. He prays for the disciples in such glowing terms, almost idealistic. They've kept your word. They know that everything I have is a gift from you. I passed on the message, and they accepted it. They know that I came from you. They believe you sent me. And I don't know about you, but when I first read this, even now when I read it, I find myself thinking, we talking about the same disciples? Right? I mean, these are the guys who were just arguing a minute ago about who was the greatest. And then they were arguing over who was low enough to wash the other's feet. Don't you guys remember that, right? These are the guys who would argue with Jesus from time to time or make ridiculous requests of him. And by the way, they are about to abandon him and deny him an hour and a half after he says amen. Those are the disciples that he's talking about in such glowing terms. And I have to tell you, it sounds like a different group of people to me. It does. It sounds like a different group of people. You've been with me for 2 years now, right? Doesn't it? It sounds like a different group of guys. Yeah? And it was just at this moment when I was thinking this, and I think it was the Holy Spirit, I hope it was anyway, who reminded me that these statements of Jesus are part of a prayer offered in faith. See, even Jesus demonstrates faith. Jesus, he's interceding for his disciples in faith. He isn't praying from the perspective of where they are, but where they can be. As he has done throughout their lives, he's seen the best in them. See, Paul, he wrote in Ephesians, what Coach read for us, verse 20, now to him who is able to do immeasurably more than all we ask or imagine according to his power that is at work within us. God is able to do immeasurably more than all we can ask or imagine. So Jesus doesn't see them as they are, but as they can be, as they will be. And that's who he's praying for. And here's a prayer tip for you. I'll just give you this one for free. If you're praying about things as they are, maybe you should try praying for what could be. Might be a better place to start. Gail O'Day, in her commentary on John, she reads this prayer itself as an act of love, performed in the disciples' hearing. She wrote, Jesus speaks of them not as they have performed, but as God's gift has constituted them. You may remember from last week when we discussed that in verse 6, Jesus reveals the Father to his disciples, and that by revealing the Father, we referenced that the revelation of the God's glory to Moses back in Exodus 34, when God let his goodness and his presence pass by Moses while Moses was hidden in the cleft of the rocks. Remember that? So when we speak of Jesus revealing the Father, remember it's not just his name he's revealing. It's his character. It's his presence. It's his goodness, his glory. It's God the Father's identity. That's what Jesus reveals to these disciples. He reveals the identity. And so Gail O'Day, along with Raymond Brown and Craig Keener, are of the opinion that this list of things that Jesus checks off about his disciples isn't their resume. The disciples are never described in this prayer by what they have achieved, only by the fact that they have been given their identity. And their identity is a transfer of belonging. This is the transformation that Jesus prays for his disciples, not because of what they have accomplished, but because of the identity by which they will now be known. Have any of you ever seen Elijah Isbell run? Any of you? Yeah, you've watched him. You've seen him, right? You've seen him. There's a few people. I know there's a few people in here who've seen him. I've not seen him in person. I've only seen him on the video and stuff. And I got to tell you, he's fast. He is like the wind. He is like he's chasing $1 million. And he makes it look effortless too. I mean, he is flying. The only time I am ever worried for him. The only time I get uptight is one, when the person who wins isn't him because I know that they've cheated, or two, when he's in a relay, right? He runs the, what do you call that? The 4x800? Is it 4x800? So it's like two times around the track. It's half a mile, right? Everybody runs half a mile. But the part where I get a little bit tense is when the baton, I thought it was stick, but when the baton gets handed off, right? Because it's tricky. Because see, here's the thing. When you're in the race, you can't stand still and wait for the baton to come to you. You've actually got to be moving. But you got to time it so that the guy who's bringing the baton gets it in your hand, because there's like this box. And you can't get out of that box before you have the baton. And so that's the time when you can just blow the whole race, right? And so that's the time that's tense for me, because, a great pass of the baton will totally make a difference in a race. Look at verses 7 and 8, where Jesus prays, "Now they know that everything I have is a gift from you, for I passed it on to them. The message you gave me, they accepted it and know that I came from you, and they believe you sent me." They're passing a baton. The Father gave the words to the Son. The Son gave the words to the disciples. The disciples received them, knew truly, and believed. And that's how revelation works in the book of John. It's like passing a baton. Faith in the Johannine idiom is trust in the sending. In other words, it's the conviction that Jesus is not some self-appointed sage, but he's the envoy of the Father. Craig Keener has shown how deeply this draws on an ancient convention of agency, which is a really fancy way to say the person who does the sending gives all of their authority and presence to the one being sent. The Nigerian biblical scholar Teresa Akur, in her landmark work on Johannine mission, she argues that this sender-sent structure in the book of John is like a load-bearing wall for mission. She said that the Father is, I love this term, she calls the Father the unsent sender, meaning he's the one who it originates with. It originates with him. And then she says every other actor, the Son, the Spirit, the Baptist, finally the disciples, they stand within this current of his sending. And so, read with Akur's eyes, verse 7 and 8 are not merely a report on the disciples' ability to wrap their head around the message. This is the moment when the baton is settling into new hands. The community has received the words and will shortly be sent with them. What we are witnessing, she says in these two verses, is a commissioning in slow motion. Let me give you just one more overheard, Jim, and then we're done, okay? Verse 9 and 10. "My prayer is not for the world, but for those you have given me, because they belong to you. All who are mine belong to you, and you've given them to me, so they bring me glory." Now, this brings us back to our conversation, our discussion of glory from last week. Now, one of the questions that popped up from last week's conversation was, how do we give glory to the Father when he and the Son already have all the glory? It was a legitimate question, right? Right? Everything belongs to him, so how do we give him what he already has? That's the question. I think it's a really good question. It's a really hard question. So let me give you my take on it, and then you're going to need to chew on it, read the Bible. I know you can do this. I believe in you. You can pray about it yourself and decide, okay? But this is the best I've come up with, okay? I'm at a really interesting place in my life. My son Joseph, he's home right now. And the deal is, we decided, his sister, my daughter, the two of them had decided they were going to wait for Joseph to get home because they were going to, together, they wanted to take me to buy my Father's Day gift. And they want to buy me a nice, really a reading chair. We're going to move my desk out because I can't seem to sit under a desk anymore. I can't sit under a desk anymore. Anyway, and so we get this lounge chair so I'll be able to read, and I got a lap desk so I can write and all this kind of stuff. And they're buying this really nice padded chair for me. Now, you got to know, this is a little bit of a different experience, because there's at least, and I'm not saying in the last couple of years, but there has been at least 16 years of my fatherhood where the way it works on Father's Day or before Father's Day, the week before normally, the kids go to mom and say, we got this idea for dad's gift. And mom takes them and she and I buy the gift so the kids can give it to me. So I've been buying Father's Day gifts for myself for years. I just haven't got to pick them out, right? Now here's the thing. Even though I'm buying the gift, I mean, the money came from me and they picked the gift out and they gave it to me. Even when it's something like a tie, I don't even wear ties. You know, I'm thrilled about the gift. I can't tell you how many things I've never used from my kids that I was absolutely thrilled about because they thought I would like it. There are times when later on I was like, why would I like it? But then finally they got to a place where they just would buy me books. And God bless them, they thought just any book would do. They got, here, Dad, I got you a book, you know. But it didn't matter. It didn't matter because they gave me a gift. You know? And I gotta tell you, I imagine the Lord sometimes, Jesus and the Father talking, and I can imagine after I've tried something, Jesus saying, Lord, I know his head was totally in the wrong place and he didn't listen to us, but did you see the energy that he used when he did that? You know? Or sometimes, Father, did you see that? He did almost everything I told him to do. Isn't that, I mean, that's gotta be part of how it works, right? You see, part of it is that, I mean, they give us the gifts and they give us the ability and they give us the energy and they even, and I don't understand how it works, but somehow they give us the glory. Everything is God the Father's. He gives everything to Jesus, his Son. Jesus gives us his name so that we are identified by his presence in his character. Then when we reveal Jesus to others, we make the glory of Jesus discoverable. We make the glory of Jesus discoverable to others. In fact, I've come up with a new word for making the glory of Jesus discoverable. I call it discover-abling. That's what we do. We're discover-abling. When we reveal Jesus to others, his presence, his love, his glory, his truth, his welcomeness, his safety, his protection, when we do any of that, we're discover-abling Jesus. That's what we're doing. That's my best explanation for how we could possibly give glory to someone who has it all. See, overhearing this prayer of Jesus is one of the most comforting and safe things I have done in a while. I mean, he's praying for his disciples, but I can pray this for us. We can pray this for each other. I can hear his words without being defensive. They weren't aimed at me, but they definitely apply. I want to be like those ideal disciples. I know it's a pipe dream, but I want to be like those ideal disciples. I find myself saying, Lord, make me one who keeps your word. Make me one who's aware of the fact that everything belongs to you. Everything, even the stuff I think I own. Even the stuff I think I earned or worked hard for. Help me recognize that even the motivation to get out of bed in the morning came from you. It's all yours. Jesus passed on the message, make me one who accepts it. Don't let me forget that Jesus came from the Father and that Jesus has passed the baton to me to run as fast and as hard and as far as I can for as long as I can and then hand off the baton to somebody else. Now, last thing, and I'm done. I was talking with a friend about this just yesterday morning. I don't have to justify my existence before I leave this place. Because my identity is a gift. It's just a gift. I hope you guys think about that, okay?